I loved being on the men's changing room. And it sounds weird.
Sweet.
But like, as a guy, I know that we're not very good at from my experience, I think it's getting better now, but I'm like 38 and we've never really been good at complimenting each other. Like girls will compliment guys and be like, oh, you look great or whatever. Girlfriends, partners and female friends. But as guys, we don't really compliment each other.
So true.
But there was something really fun about like seeing guys coming out awkwardly wearing jeans and be like, oh, I don't know what I think about this. And I'd be like, mate, that looks awesome.
Yay!
Yeah, you look awesome, man. You should definitely get it.
Guys, is this just very Western and modern of us to want to be fulfilled in our jobs? Like Paul was a tent maker in order to fund his mission and his like calling for Jesus. I don't think he's there agonizing over like, does tent making bring me joy? Is it like fulfilling my like true talent and calling in life? You know, there is something that's quite noble and simple about either collectivist cultures or just different traditions around the world where having a job and providing for your family is meaningful enough. And like, that's really profound and good. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Unscripted, where we have honest conversations about God, culture, and everything else in between. I'm joined today by the wonderful Charlie and Darby, who we know and love. I'm so excited for this episode in particular. I invited Charlie to join us today because he has such a wealth of wisdom in what it looks like to traverse those in-between unknown seasons of purposelessness and to do it with God. I will let him do a better intro of himself. So Charlie, please whistle-stop tour of who you are and how you find yourself to be on this episode today.
Sure. I remember a friend saying that if he wrote a book about his life, the autobiography title would be "Didn't See That Coming." I think that kind of sums up my life. Like, did not see that coming. So I was a pastor, led a church for a number of years. I studied law. I'm a freelance photographer. Now I'm doing various things in life. So all that to say, I think I've had to live through many different seasons. Sometimes I knew where it was obvious what God was doing. There are things that I still look back and go, why did that happen? And I don't know what that means. So I guess, I don't know about wisdom, I just have a lot of experience of living through different seasons.
No, he's got
life,
wisdom.
maybe.
He's got wisdom. He's being humble.
We've been trying. He's got wisdom.
Yeah, he's got wisdom. So I guess hopefully that it can tell you what we're basically chatting about today, which is essentially Colossians 3:23, right, Darby?
Sure it is, which I'll read. Work willingly at whatever you do as though you are working for the Lord rather than for people.
So whatever you're doing, whether that's a dead-end job that you just think this is just paying the bills, it's going nowhere, or a job that you don't feel particularly like it's your calling, we're actually called in the Bible to do it as if we were working for the Lord and to do it wholeheartedly. What does that look like in real life? Charlie, what was the worst job you've ever had?
There's been a few, but one that really stands out. I've also had jobs that I like as well.
Okay, good.
One that really stands out is I was going through like in between different careers and figuring out what I wanted to do. And after a little bit of time, connected with this company through friends. Now, friendship and work introductions, sometimes it works out perfectly. Other times, really tricky. But I ended up finding myself in between like a really tense relational dynamic between two founders of the company.
Oh no.
And I ended up becoming like this go-to person, and it was really, really hard. And I got to the point where I was feeling
like you were just caught in between their like relationship as founders.
And then I'd be like pulled into conversations and go, hey, what do you think about this? And I would always hear like an undertone of, you better choose what I'm saying right now.
No.
So difficult.
And it was so uncomfortable to the point where, you know, I'd be dreading going into work in the morning, feeling that, you know, you get that like sick feeling in your stomach.
Bro,
Most people get the Sunday scaries, but I had like Sunday scaries times 1,000.
Sunday nausea.
Sunday
like, nightmares.
Monday crazy. Like Tuesday, Wednesday, every day it was like, oh, I feel sick. So that's probably one that I didn't love.
Fair. Thanks for sharing. Darby, did you have a job that was absolutely awful?
I did the classic 16, get my first job, worked in a restaurant. And again,
I
think everyone should do this. Such good learning experience. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about service. You're very thankful to those people. people. Thank you, servers.
Yeah,
but I worked
we
in
love
a restaurant
hospitality.
and I hated it. The culture was so not good. There was no breaks. There was no kind of there was unhealthy expectations of how long you should work for. The work culture was quite toxic in lots of ways. The management didn't really listen to people.
Okay.
I remember crying on my shifts semi-regularly, and definitely feeling like as a student, well, I was doing my A-levels at the time, and felt like my whole weekend was ruined because Friday nights I would be like, I can't do anything because I've got to go to work tomorrow. My Saturdays were ruined, and then my Sundays were ruined, and I get put on shifts when I was supposed to be in school, and all of these things. So just definitely not a fun job. Really didn't enjoy it. Lots of bad jobs within that job. So it was not the best time of my life.
Oh my gosh.
What about you, Annette?
Thanks for asking. Thanks for caring about my story. I honestly resonate with both of those situations. I was put in a management position. I was so excited about it, but the expectations were really hard, and I constantly was feeling like a failure every time. Yeah. And then the probation period came around, and they were like, listen, you're not meeting your targets. This isn't looking good for you. And lo and behold, end of my probation, it did not look good for me. It was brutal. Really hard. Made me question so much about my identity and myself and working life. And also similar to you, Darby, I worked in a pizza place, and the lady who was running us, the team, like the manageress, I guess, I just found it really difficult to navigate, really kind of emotionally manipulative, difficult culture to navigate. And I really hated it. I kept looking for a way out, all the time. Yeah. Been there, definitely been there. If we could go back in time though and have a conversation with young 16-year-old Darby, what would you say to her about that season? Because people listening are in a similar situation.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting. So I think my perspective, maybe it's helpful if I go more into my perspective of what I felt about my job at the time as well. And I definitely remember thinking, firstly, I was in a very fortunate position where my job wasn't essential to pay the bills. I was 16, didn't have to pay the bills. So it's a little bit different, I think, if you are someone that, you're doing a job that you hate and has got menial tasks and the culture's not good, and you're like, I need this job for money. And I think there's a different mindset and not a different mindset, but there's just a different responsibility with your job in that case. So that obviously influenced some of how I felt about my job, because I was like, I don't have to be here. But I also wanted money. I was 16 and I needed to earn, I needed to save because I needed to buy things for uni and whatever. But I do remember just seeing no kind of value in my job. I definitely viewed it as a way to make money, and that was the be all end all of it. And it was something that it was good, and I got good tips and things like that helped. Yeah. But it definitely was really difficult. I tried to make it a good workplace where I could. I was really nice to people, and I made an effort to look out for my colleagues where I could. But I just found it a really difficult culture to be in. I didn't really see a purpose or a fruit to my work beyond getting money at the end of the day. Yeah. So I think if I was to speak to myself now, I think on reflection, I think I did a good job at trying to love people and trying to, people wouldn't even get food on their shifts and things because it was 11-hour shifts and you wouldn't get a break. Wow, so I used to sneak baked bread, and we used to have bread on different tables, and I used to sneak and cut the bread up and butter it and hide it under people's tables so they could go and have some bread on their breaks. And I think doing that was a great way that I tried to make my job feel like I could do something purposeful when I was there. But just honestly, I don't think even at the time, now looking back, I would reflect and say that was purposeful, but I don't think even at the time I would have thought about it in that way. I would have acknowledged it in that way. I don't know how you felt about your job that was really difficult, whether your own mindset around how do I make this job worth something.
Well, I was in a slightly different circumstance, I guess. I was in my mid-30s and I was going through a bit of a career change.
What do you mean? You're not barely even 20 now.
Thank you. And it's my new best friend.
Sorry, carry on. You're in your 30s.
So I was in my mid-30s and figuring out what's next. And you get this feeling of this is it. The Lord has landed these circumstances and you're going into it. Yeah. And the reality is, some of the weight came about a friend of a friend was like, oh, I heard about you and blah, blah, blah. And then I was praying about something and it linked into something that I want to do. So I went into it with this huge expectation of I've landed it. Yeah. This is the time I turn around to all those naysayers to be like, I made it. Look. Yeah. But it started not working out. And that was really hard. And I think what ended up happening was I ended up just kind of suppressing how hard I was finding it because I had to make it work.
Yeah, because of the peer pressure and what would people think and the ego that comes into it, and your identity gets wrapped up in it.
And the
as
shame
well.
around it of like, what if this doesn't work out?
Yes.
And I think if I just accepted that this was hard, I probably would have prayed. I probably would have gone, I don't think I can do this, Jesus, help me. But because I was just trying to like push through. You know those moments where people are like, oh, I'm praying for you, but they don't pray for you, or they've forgotten about it. I was like, yeah, I'm praying. But I don't think I was actually listening to God. I think I was just on this like war path of it has to work. I can't fail this. And so I just kept going. And I mean, in the end, I gave it up, but that was kind of my experience.
Oh my gosh, I love that honesty. We were talking about this like before we pressed record. And Charlie, you said the most insightful thing. You were like, people don't, when everything is fine and you're in a job that, you know, you're content in and everything in your life is content, there isn't that impulse immediately to think about God and to pray and to press in. But it's actually when you're facing that friction, when things are difficult, where actually as a Christian, that's when the rubber hits the road and you're like, I need to pray. There's nothing that can get me through this apart from knowing God and having that saving faith.
Yeah, for sure. Because I think do we really need God on a day-to-day basis as like in England? I live in Surrey. There's England and then there's Surrey. I live in Surrey.
Yeah, fair play.
I did have a northern accent, so I am from working class, but now I'm Surrey.
I think of Surrey as like what Americans think England is. Like when I go to places like
100%.
Like beautiful.
Afternoon tea, rolling hills.
But do we actually need Jesus? Like
modern day
today,
life.
Waking up, getting the train here, did I rely on him? And then we sing on Sunday mornings like, all I need is you and I need your help. I surrender. I'm like, what does surrender look like when you have provision? You can pay for your travel, pay for your food, pay for your rent. You're doing a job that whether you love it or not, you're getting paid well for it. So you kind of numb out your purpose and calling or whatever and go, at least I'm going on holidays once a year to numb this out or whatever it may be. But I think crisis for me, the places where my knowing of God's love for me, not his increase of love, but my knowledge of his love towards me was when I was going through the most unexpected, disorientating crisis moments. And so I'm in this weird place where when I'm journeying with friends who are like, man, I'm going through the hardest season of my life. Obviously, I don't say this to their face, but there is a quiet, like, excitement of, man, you're about to encounter the grace of God like you've never known before, obviously journeying through with them with kindness and compassion. But I do find that I've met with God deeper in those places of pain and
100%.
suffering.
100%.
I think you've touched on two really interesting points there around work as well and how people's attitudes towards work in our culture. And that I think firstly, the one you mentioned of either people have just accepted that their job sucks and they're okay with it and like whatever, it's never going to be fun and it's never going to be interesting, but it does what it does, and that's fine. And then there's also the opposite, I think, where people are like, oh my word, this job sucks and that I should be doing something fun, I should be doing something that brings me loads of joy, I should be doing, and there's either an acceptance or there's a resistance. And I think we really struggle to see people find contentment now in their work and where God's placed them. And actually there's a real question of what does it mean if I'm not changing my job, and whether or not that means because I've accepted it or because I can't or whatever. What does it mean to be content in those difficult seasons? What does it mean to be content, and not just content in a state of acceptance, but content and be fruitful in your job that sucks? Like what does it mean to be fruitful working in a pizza place? What does it mean to be fruitful working for founders that are difficult? And what does it mean to be, I think that's the real question for a lot of people, isn't it, when you're in those two places? 100%.
And I think I just remember so vividly, I had started my Christian yoga business. I was so excited about it. I was like, oh my gosh, I found my calling. We're all seeking calling and purpose as Christians. I get it. I was so excited. I was like, flip, it took so long. I'm 31, here I am. And I thought a really smart move would be to like join an activewear like retail shop in Nottingham so I could get to know the wellness people in and around Nottingham. But I just remember being there like folding leggings day in, day out. And it was like the worst thing ever. It was like mind numbing. It was no one's fault. It was just that I was so excited. I'd found my purpose. And I was like, I think I'm wasting time here. And you know, inevitably a customer would come in, they'd like be rifling through the leggings, like painstakingly taken so long to fold, looking for their right size or the color they wanted. And I had to then go again, fold the leggings. It was no one's fault, but I was so bitter.
Brutal.
And I just remember having this moment of like pure frustration. It was not a holy prayer. It was just a genuine outcry, like, Lord, where are you in this? This is so boring. This is not how I see my life and my purpose and my calling, and how I don't feel fulfilled with this. And I really just felt the Holy Spirit kind of prompt me in that moment to think about the deep desires I have in my heart. Like, I would love to be a mum one day. And actually just casting my mind to future self Annette, and how I would be picking up the same clothes again and again, picking up the same toys again and again, folding the same clothes, same load of laundry. There's so much repetition in our lives, and repetition does not mean stagnation. And that has like changed the trajectory of my work life, my thought life.
So good.
But I could have missed the moment because I would have just chalked that up to another bad day in a job I hated that was going nowhere. But I was so grateful for just that little moment of thinking, where is God in this?
That's so beautiful. And I think that's such a beautiful thing you've just said about, like, God prepares us in those hidden seasons a lot of the time. He prepares us in the things that aren't, like, no one that you think of as like a great person of faith just grew that overnight and grew that from a place of being a visible person of great faith. Like, that takes small everyday actions of saying, like, God, where are you in this? And I think it's like Luke 16, I want to say, where it's if you're faithful with a little, then like
much more be given
exactly
to you.
And that's the whole thing of being, where has God placed you right now, and where can you be faithful with the little, even no matter how little it is in your opinion, how can you be faithful where God's put you now? And also God, I think, like, we have to remember, God knows the desires of our heart. He knows us so well. He's created us with passions. He's created us with desires and dreams. And those aren't things to be afraid of if you've grown stagnant in your job. Like you were saying, feeling, people can feel in this place of, oh, just accepted it. Like, asking yourself and giving yourself the opportunity to ask yourself, what makes my heart tick? Like, what makes my heart excited? What has God put in my life as a passion? And then reflecting on now and being like, okay, how is this job going me towards this? How am I, even my character, how is my character being built in a way that is going to refresh me and equip me for what God has for me in the future? And actually also a question of, okay, if this is what God has for me for the next X amount of time, how, I'm not going to live my life just being miserable every day about this. How am I going to seek God in the everyday? How am I going to seek God in this place? How am I going to transform this place to see more of Jesus? How am I going to be Jesus here? I think they're great questions, but I love that story of just being faithful with where you've been placed, with the vision of what God's given you for your future.
It honestly changed my life, that moment. But if I could go back in time, I would actually say to myself, how you work like really images how God worked in the smallness of your job. Like, you're bringing order out of chaos, and it's what God did in Genesis, when he like spoke life and light into all of the chaos of the world. And you're like creating beauty by like the way that you painstakingly dress the windows to be eye-catching so people will come in. There were small moments how I worked imaged how God worked, and it's something that I really loved about kind of getting involved with LICC and learning some of the tools that we have for young people with jobs. And it reminded me of your favorite job as well. Like, what was your favorite job that you've ever worked in?
It's retail. I work for a high street clothing brand for all ages.
Fancy.
I won't talk the brand.
Fancy, okay.
Guess in the comments.
It's on the high street of Guildford. That's now a pub.
Ooh.
So that's a little tip for anyone who wants to search for it. I loved it. I loved working in retail. I love the people that I worked with. I was 21 and I think what I really love, there were two things I really loved. One was this game that we played. And if you're in retail, maybe this will help you through the days. Just hiding like a small item inside a clothing in the store, and all the staff has to find it. Whoever finds it wins.
Okay.
So
and then they can buy like food or donuts, or the others have to buy them a drink or whatever it may be.
Really sweet.
So we'd like hide pencils, and they would go through pretending to tidy all the jeans, being like, nope, like putting our hands into all the pockets. Probably unhygienic, but by the by.
No, pre-COVID, it's fine.
It's fine. But what I loved about that job was just, for me, there was something simple about like completing the job at the end of the day and not having to think about it again. And the other thing was I loved being on the men's changing room. And that sounds weird.
Sweet.
But like, as a guy, I know that we're not very good at from my experience, I think it's getting better now, but I'm like 38, and we've never really been good at complimenting each other. Like girls will compliment guys and be like, oh, you look great or whatever. Girlfriends, partners and female friends. But as guys, we don't really compliment each other.
So true.
So there was something really fun about like seeing guys coming out awkwardly wearing jeans and be like, oh, I don't know what I think about this. And I'd be like, mate, that looks awesome.
Yay!
Yeah, you look awesome, man. You should definitely get it. And, you know, I was driven partly by commission. I'm not going to lie. But the other part was that the guy, you could just see them walking out with like half an inch taller.
Yeah.
And like, man, I think we just don't see a lot of kindness towards like between men.
Yeah.
I think now there's more with like men's mental health and stuff. So I look back at that season and I think that was really fun.
Yeah.
I just really enjoyed it.
And that's so beautiful, you said, because that's not a normal cultural thing in other places for guys to say that. Actually, you had an opportunity to speak into that in a place which wasn't normal. You know, you don't get to do that in most contexts of guys. And like you took that opportunity to bring life, to bring joy, to bring encouragement. And that's you being Jesus. Like
so
exactly
true.
Where you were.
Some would say releasing potential, you know, what God did for us. And that's what you're doing in your job. Hi, sorry to interrupt the episode. Isn't Charlie amazing? Please, would you like, subscribe, comment, engage with this video or podcast, however you listen to it. It makes such a difference and it means the world to us. It means that we can continue to put out this content and continue to have good conversations about God, culture, and everything else in between. So one more time, like, subscribe, engage with us in the comments. However you are listening to this podcast episode, do the things that need to be done. Thank you so much. Back to the episode. But even as we're talking about all of this, one kind of persistent thought I have in my mind is like, guys, is this just very Western and modern of us to want to be fulfilled in our jobs? Like Paul was a tent maker in order to fund his mission and his like calling for Jesus. I don't think he's there agonizing over like, does tent making bring me joy? Is it like fulfilling my like true talent and calling in life? You know, there is something that's quite noble and simple about either collectivist cultures or just different traditions around the world where having a job and providing for your family is meaningful enough. And like, that's really profound and good.
I think that's so beautiful and we've definitely lost some aspect of that. I think a bit like I was touching on earlier, where we almost feel we have this, we deserve to have a job that brings us joy, and we deserve to have a job that is deeply satisfying for us in all of our individual needs. And if it doesn't meet me in XYZ and I'm not growing in XYZ, then like it's not the job for me. And I think like there is a thing, obviously, like if you've got the option to have a job that you love and you grow, and obviously we would like people to be in that job, but sometimes that's just not the case, and sometimes that's just not an option. And I think we have kind of lost the reverence and lost the regularity of having a job that is for provision. Like you're there as a mum to provide for your kids, you're there as a partner to provide for your spouse. Like actually there is a real, that in itself is a calling, that in itself makes work meaningful. If what makes your job meaningful is a paycheck to provide for something, I think about Christians that are in really high earning jobs, and actually a lot of them would say that part of their work, part of what makes their work meaningful is to use the finances they're given to bless other people, to give to people. And actually like that doesn't mean that the rest of their job isn't meaningful, but it just means that that is okay if that is a meaningful part of your job, where the provision you get from it is to bless people, to bless your family, all of those things. So I think it's definitely something we as individualistic Western people that kind of are looking out for our own desires a lot of the time, we lose the sense of the fact that there is a real beauty in the provision of work.
So true. And to maybe just normalize that and bring that into the conversation a little bit more, which is probably why I brought it up. But yeah, if you feel like you're stuck in your dead-end job and maybe the only thing it's doing is making sure that you can pay your rent on time and pay your bills on time, there is purpose and meaning in that, and that's a beautiful thing. But I have like a really interesting question that I wanted to ask you, Charlie, which is, how were you able to trust God's purpose for you when your life maybe felt off script a little bit with that job, where it felt like everything was leading to God opening these doors and you've landed it and you've made it. And then you're in this job and it's kind of not feeling quite right and you're like in secret denial about it. How did that shape your journey in learning to trust God? And any thoughts on that?
I mean, your first question was, how did I find God's purpose in it? I didn't. That's the reality of it.
So
hindsight is a beautiful thing. I can look back and I can tell it in a really like Christian way and be like, oh, you know, Jesus really shaped me. And he really grew my patience, and I'm so grateful for the man I'm becoming and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
The reality is at the time, I was just anxious and stressed and afraid.
Yeah.
I was like, what does this mean for my life if this doesn't work out? But I think I've been through so many. So I was born in South Korea. I moved to England from Seoul, the capital city, to Doncaster.
Wow.
A wonderful place in England, but very different.
Very different.
So I feel like I've gone through quite a lot of disorientating moments throughout my life. I was pastoring for a number of years, and I thought that was my calling for the rest of my life, kind of leading a church, serving a church. But that came to an abrupt ending unexpectedly. So I was like, okay, there's another one. And so it just continued again and again and again. And I think what I've landed on is that we want certainty. Like, I want to be able to go, this is where I'm heading, this is what I'm doing. But I realized that for me, wanting certainty was because I actually wanted to live without trusting Jesus on a day-to-day basis. Because if I know where I'm going, do I need Jesus? I don't think I do. And it's like, Jesus, thank you. And then I'll kind of be like, thank you for this job, thank you for this marriage, thank you for this life, thank you for blah, 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 all of that kind of stuff. But I think what I've really wanted deep down, I don't think if I'm honest, what I really want is not to need Jesus.
Yeah.
That's what I really want, because then I can just rely on my own strength. Yeah. I know where I'm going. I can plan out my route.
Yeah.
But the unknown, very scary.
Yeah.
But I've also found that it's the most beautiful path. Like for me, understanding God's love for me only came about because I trusted in the mystery of this journey and the unknownness of it. And I, like most people, control freak, want to know what's happening, all of that kind of stuff. And I'm currently in a season of life where everything is kind of up in the air, and I'm having to journey with Jesus on a day-to-day basis of like, okay, what does work this week look like? I'm freelancing, building a business and all of that. And some days I'm like, this is great. I love this. I get to like make beautiful things, and it's all very idyllic and wonderful. And then other days I'm thinking, what on earth am I doing with my life? And I think it's forced proximity to Jesus. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that's so good.
To go, Jesus, I genuinely need to meet with you today because my inside is all chaotic.
Wow.
I'm anxious, I'm lacking peace. I definitely can't love people very well in this season because I'm just thinking about like, I need.
Yeah.
And the only ways for me to go, God, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm kind of done.
Yeah.
I can't do this.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of sit with him, and then he comes and he somehow draws me closer to him, and I somehow move from a place of complete kind of desolation and sadness and anxiety to, God, you're so good, you're so kind. And then I've got the courage to engage with that day. And so not very well, but I think hopefully God's doing a work in me through it.
That's so good. God is doing a work in you all the time. Maybe if you're in a lost season, this is it. It's forced proximity to Jesus, and you can bring all of the chaos and the messiness, the like imperfect prayers of feeling scared, feeling, uncertain, and seeing what God will do with that.
It's so beautiful. And we were having a conversation beforehand, before we started recording this, about humility as well, and how that breeds that. What that requires is us to step down and say, actually, what I think and all my plans, as you're saying, I just need to humble myself and recognize like how inferior I am to the plans of the Lord, how inferior I am to his ways. And pride is like the root of a lot of sin, all sin in some ways,
So
and
true.
I think actually there's a real beautiful thing that we've forgotten in our culture again, that where we say pride is actually a good thing, and take pride in your work, take pride in yourself. And that's the complete opposite message of the Bible, which says, I'll boast in nothing but the Lord. And actually it's taking those moments where our world doesn't make sense, where our job doesn't make sense, our world doesn't look like we want it to look, and we force ourselves to be humbled, and we force ourselves to recognize how little we really know, how little we can really control, how little we even know ourselves, really.
So true.
And actually say, Lord, I need you to lead me, and I don't know where that leads, but I'm trusting in you. And it's not trust because you know what the path is going to be, as you say. It's trust because it's like you don't know what it's going to be. So I think there's a real thing of humility in saying in our job, saying in as you approach, maybe you're going for your next shift, maybe you're going into the office for another day, or maybe you have lost your job, or you're looking to the next thing. All of it, I think there's a place where we need to humble ourselves and say, God, I trust you with this life, I trust you with this day, I trust you with this week, I trust you with this season, and really this day is yours, this job is yours, this future is yours. And that's where we see God do beautiful things, and that's where he transforms our day to day, that's where he transforms our work, that's where he gives us new opportunities, he grows us, all of those things. So there's a real thing of humility.
Preach it, Darby, preach preach it. But honestly, get out of my head though, because I was thinking that. I was like, maybe.
You get out of my head.
You get out of my head. The answer to all of this is how actually we need to decenter ourselves from the story of our life. Like it's actually, if we sing in church that it's all about Jesus, all of my angst that I experienced around either being in a job I didn't like or felt like it lacked purpose, it was because I still was putting myself at the center of that story and how I would be fulfilled, or how impressive I would sound at a party when people asked me like, what do you do for work, or all these different things. I really liked what you were sharing, Charlie, about, I think you were reading in John 8 as you were praying about this episode, and you were like, actually, what am I feeding myself on? Oh, sorry, Romans 8, not John 8, Romans 8. Those who are led by the Spirit are children of God.
Yes, yeah.
And what does it look like to be led by the Spirit in the dailiness of your life, and for that to be shaping your identity, and that your work isn't the thing that feeds you, but actually it's that you are being fed by something else. I think Jesus in the Gospels, he talks about how he's fasting. He's talking with the disciples about fasting, and he's like, I don't need to eat because I've got bread that God has given me.
So good.
And I loved how you like expounded all of that. But so please share some more on those thoughts.
Well, I was thinking about Daniel in the Bible and how he was in Babylon.
Yeah.
He was captured and taken away, family killed. It was like a horrific situation. And I think his story is so interesting because he comes and he gets chosen because they're good looking, they're strong, they're wise, they're intelligent, blah, blah, blah. Same standards of the world, right? It's visibly like, you guys are good. We're going to bring you into the king's house and we're going to train you for our service. And by our service, they're talking about the very people who came and caused havoc on Israelites, on their family, on their loved ones. And Daniel goes through this really interesting season where he denies eating the food that's offered to him, but he doesn't deny the job that's given to him. And so he seems to be taking this really creative way of going, what is he saying yes to, and what is he saying no to? Because if it's a principle of everything from the Babylonians, it's not good, it's unholy, say no to it. He should have just said no to the job, no to the food, no to everything. But it's like, okay, I'm going to work, I'm going to serve the king, but not eat the food. And so I just find it really fascinating that I guess we're trying to find principles when we read the Bible.
Yes.
And it's like we look at someone's life and go, okay, and that you went from like selling yoga pants to now hosting this amazing podcast. And people are like, if I want to be like Annette, what I need to do is I need to get into yoga. I need to try and sell yoga pants, hate it, but fold it, really love it, and think about becoming a mother. And then I will have this amazing job at LICC and record podcasts with beautiful people like us.
That's exactly what will happen. You do those steps and your life will be like that.
But that's not it, is it?
No, obviously not.
We all are. I think the beauty of being a child of God is that we genuinely are able to have a relationship with Jesus, the Holy Spirit, and the Father God. And through the Word, through all sorts, relationships, through work, through circumstances, God speaks to us. And what would it look like to entrust like the trajectory of our lives into the leading of Jesus? I think that's the beautiful life, isn't it?
It's so challenging, isn't it? Because I think we're so quick to forget the supernatural holiness and beauty of the fact that we have the Holy Spirit with us. We're so quick to forget that even in our dead-end jobs, even in our boring moments in our day, when life gets really tough and when life's great, we're just so quick to forget that we carry this
spiritual amnesia.
Totally.
And
daily. I think it's a thing that really challenges me when I remember when I was in my job and like the things that I would struggle with, but I had a God that I could turn to and talk to these things about, and I had a hope that was bigger than myself. And if you find your job difficult, just think about how difficult it must be for your colleagues who don't know the Lord, who don't walk in with the Spirit with them, and actually they don't go in with any sense of external hope. They don't go in with any sense of God working through them, or the fact that God can even be with them to bring comfort in their day. There's no sense of that, and we need to remember the fact that we walk in with this absolutely beautiful gift of the Holy Spirit with us at all times. And I think if more of us got that concept, myself included, in so many parts of my life, all of us, if we got that concept deeper, if we really realised the truth of what it means to have that relationship, our world would be transformed, our jobs would be transformed, our lives would be transformed, because there's a deeper and there's a richness for each of us in that place, I think.
Yeah. Oh, so good, you guys. So good. Maybe we end it there, does anyone have any burning last thoughts that they want to share?
Good question.
Burning last thoughts.
Burning last thoughts. There are people.
Take it away.
There are people listening who are like, my job sucks. I hate my life.
Yeah, I think if you're in that place, just remember that there are so many ways that you really can bring the Lord into your work. There are so many ways that you can bring the Lord into your everyday. That we would say that there are 5 ways that you can bring the Lord into what you do, wherever you are, and that can be doing anything. And that is, you can bring order to chaos. So where in your job you see things that are not good, they're not fruitful, there is a mess, that actually there is a mandate for us to bring order to that place, that you can spark joy. Maybe your colleagues are going through a really rough time, or you can just bring that happiness, you can bring that smile, you can be someone that brings the joy of the Lord into that place. That you can create beauty where there isn't. Maybe you're a communicator or you're a designer, or you could put effort into making a nice store display wherever you work. Actually, that in itself is a Jesus mandate. That's from the Bible, where we create beauty. God was a creator.
This, come on.
Your work is provision. Actually, again, remember that what you do, your paid work, is a way that you can get a resource for yourself, for your family, for your friends, to bless people with. And actually, also, if there's opportunity to release potential in yourself or others, that in itself is a way to love people, to bless people, to recognize the gifts in people, and to say, I see you and what you do, and I want you to grow in that. So just remember that your work does have purpose, whether or not you see it and you feel it. God can use you, and he is using you in your work. And if nothing else, there is a space where you can say to God, look, this work is grueling, but I trust that I'm going to honor you through it. And even if I can't do any of those other things, and I don't see any purpose, God, I do this work for you, not for myself. I do this work to serve you, not to serve my boss. I do this work to serve the King who is higher than I. So in all other things, that would be my encouragement. Just remember that God is with you where you are.
Oh, Debbie, that's such a good encouragement. I have no last burning things to add. No. That was excellent. That was excellent. So we really hope this episode blessed you. If you are stuck in a job and you'd value some prayer, please write in the comments. We at LICC live to serve and help you guys and equip you guys wherever you are to feel like you're flourishing, to feel like you are fruitful disciples of Jesus. So yeah, that's a wrap. I was meant to say cool fun facts about Charlie, but I never got around to it.
So many.
There were so many. He went to Barcelona for 24 hours. I mean, come on.
Good fun fact.
Find him on Instagram, follow him, and ask him all about it. But thank you for tuning in. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.